Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Roof Talk. I'm Paul, this is Jared.
Today we're coming at you from Alachua, Florida, trying to help you guys mitigate oil canning.
Alright, let's get into it. So Jared, what exactly is oil canning?
Oil canning is defined as the visible waviness in the flat areas of metal roofing. Oil canning is referred to as elastic buckling or stress wrinkling in your metal panels.
Okay, with that being said, it's exactly why we stepped up to the plate and built a 24 foot by 24 foot test deck so that we can recreate the problems that roofers and homeowners are seeing out in the field, and we can work to the solution to get you to handle any problem out there. So in dealing with oil canning, there's 6 things that you can do to work through it or correct it. Some are at the beginning stages of roof selection, material selection, and then some are at the end of during the install. So the very first one is inspect your deck. Second one is going to be inform the homeowner what your deck inspection finds. Then material selection with the homeowner. Then you get into the install. These 3 things can be shims, backer rod, or floating over bad areas.
So Paul, what do you look for when you're inspecting a deck?
Well, the first thing you have to gain is a point of reference on the deck, and that's going to be your string line. When your string line, it is your straight line going over the top. You can see any lows and highs going on with the deck, but don't focus so much on only oil canning. This is a good opportunity to give the deck a good look over, look for anything that could possibly telegraph, or just compromise your install. The buck's on you guys to install things correctly.
When you finish your deck inspection, you need to sit down and have a conversation with your homeowner to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the deck on their home.
So now that your homeowner is informed on the imperfections that their deck has, it's time to talk to them about material selection. Jared, how much will the material selection affect them?
It's a lot. So you've got 3 different things that you typically deal with when you're talking about material selection. You've got your gauge, you've got your profile, and you've got your color.
Okay, so how's gauge going to impact them? That just seems like the thickness of the material. What's that going to do?
It is the thickness of material, Paul, but you've got your aluminum substrate and you've got a steel substrate. In your aluminum substrate, we typically see 2 thicknesses that we deal with, an 032 aluminum and an 040 aluminum. And then in steel, you've got a 26 gauge and a 24 gauge. Your thinner gauges, your 032s and your 26 gauge, will show any imperfection in your deck a lot more than your heavier gauges, your 040 and your 24 gauge.
Okay, so the thinner the gauge, the more it's going to telegraph. You're going to see any problems.
Absolutely.
That's coming through. Okay. What about the profile? How's that going to impact them?
So profile, you have your rib height, which is basically just preference of the homeowner, and then you've got your striations or your flat panel. Striations will hide a lot more of the imperfections of the deck, a lot more than your flat panels or even your mini rib panels. We always recommend striations, and we try to really shy away from running any flat panels.
Okay, so I know in South Florida everybody loves flat panels, but striation's the way to go. It's going to stretch out that oil canning. It's going to strengthen it almost like a spansion bridge. So striate is the way to go. Right?
Absolutely. It also breaks up your line of sight when you're looking at the roof. You don't see all the little imperfections in the deck.
Okay, awesome. We got profile. What about color? How's color going to impact them? That seems like it's pretty simple. Is that really going to affect them?
Absolutely. So your darker, glossy panels show your shadows more than your flat or brighter colors do.
Okay. So a homeowner may be set on a color, but it's something you got to tell them. They may make the oil canning worse. Just keep that in mind. Talk to them fully through the color selection process. Keep everybody informed. I mean, I know I recommend have everybody in your company knowledgeable, not just your install guys. They may install it great, but if your salesmen sell the wrong material, they're under the gun from the very beginning.
Now that your material is chosen, we're going to go over some of the ways that you can mitigate oil canning during the install process. Paul, what are some of the ways that you can?
Okay, first thing you can do is the simplest solution. It's going to be backer rod. This is just an example of that. The backer rod is all it's trying to do is give the panel an arch to it. You're going to do less is best approach. So you'll start with some smaller backer rod. If it can achieve the look and push that oil canning out, then use the smaller backer rod. It's going to be less noticeable. It ranges from 3/8 to 5/8 backer rod, so you can get pretty thick with this stuff. Homeowners sometimes will complain about a hump in the panel, but you're taking a hump throughout the entire center versus irregular oil canning throughout the whole panel.
What's the best way to install the backer rod, Paul?
So backer rod, I get this question a lot. Backer rod is just going to simply be taped to the panel as it's laid in place. You're going to go ahead and then snap it down with the backer rod taped to the underside of the panel. Tape, one piece of tape at the bottom, one in the center, one in the top, depending on panel length. It's kind of just going to hold it there until it sees its compression.
What else can you do, Paul, to mitigate some oil canning?
So the next thing's going to be you can shim. If you have something like the string lines showing behind me, this is the worst case of the worst case. You've got a long sloping deflection across the whole deck. This is a game of 1/4 inches here. You can only really push it up a 1/4 inch with your shims, but you take 1/4 inch here, 1/4 inch here. It can allow the panel enough freedom to move and expand, not causing those oil canning bind points. So shims can always be talked, but this is where your notes from your deck inspection are crucial. Your install guys have to know where those bad points are. Feel free to mark on the deck while you're expecting an X where it's a low point, maybe a line or something where there's a high point. So keep that in mind.
Is there anything else you can do, Paul? Can you adjust your clips at all?
Oh, absolutely. Now you're going to lose some freedom with this depending on where your install is located. If you're in a very high wind zone, your clips are going to be very tightly spaced. So, but in a nutshell, you can take your clips and push them out past the deck deflection zones if you have enough clip spacing to allow this. If your clips get really tight, then you're going to end up pulling the panel down into that deflected zone, and it's going to bind that panel. It's going to give you an oil canning every time. So that's where you got to inform your homeowner of the overall install approach and things that just can't be avoided. The knowledge is your friend. You know, keep that homeowner informed, and the install will go really well. All right, so what you're going to do with shims is you're going to come one from the top side and one from the bottom, with them competing against each other here, and then you'll simply slide them together. This gives you a uniform raise in height, okay? And if you can see, the panel has lifted up a hair. What this is doing is giving it a bridge across. So once you have these in at the required height, or the height you would like, where it looks like it has floated across the deck deflection, you're going to put a screw into the clip to lock it into place. It's okay if it moves or wiggles at all. Bring it down to an acceptable tightness. You're going to want to make sure that with the addition of your shims, you still have enough screw length. You could get yourself into a bind if your screws aren't penetrating the deck and getting enough downforce. Our screws look good. Remember, the final step with this is to remove any of the excess shims. It could interfere with the next panel that lays over top, and you'll get a harsh telegraph. So get you a razor knife, bring it across, and break it off so that it doesn't interfere with the next panel that lays down. So the last step you can do to mitigate your oil canning is you can float your clips. That simply means I've drawn a circle here. Let's imagine if that is a deck deflection or a low point. If I put my clip here, it's going to cinch the panel down into the deck deflection, therefore causing some oil canning. If I go outside of the circle, which is the deck deflection, you can then put your clip on the outside of it and it will not interfere. I've in a sense then floated across the deck deflection or the bad section. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Roof Talk. Hopefully we helped you through your oil canning concerns and gave you a couple of approaches to fix your in-the-field problems. I'm Paul.
And I'm Jared.
Check back in for more videos at a later date. Roof Talk, baby. What? My Roof Talk, baby?